Would everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Roll call, please. You want to mention it? Who's not here? Yeah, me too. Okay. Supervisor Belsky, Rodriguez, and who else is? Wamble will not be here this evening. They are excused. At this time, we'll have citizens' comments. Any citizens wishing to speak? You have 5 minutes. Any citizens? Seeing none, citizens' comments are closed. I have a couple of announcements to make. Late this afternoon, a letter went out. I sent it regarding the local redistricting process. I don't know if all of you said it or not, but I've appointed a redistricting committee consisting of Supervisors Boyd Frederick, Ed Kubicki, Ron Frederick, John Franco, and Sharon Palmaville. They will serve until such time as the process is completed. I thank them for their willingness to undertake this vital work. Thank you. The other thing is Supervisor Gully has chosen for his fund, the $200 donation is to Peace Learning Circles, care of Dr. Joe Manny. And I have the Racial Ethnic Commission is going to be, the supervisors are on that, is going to be Supervisor Palmaville and Supervisor Gashke. We'll go to county supervisor, county executive appointments now.
Supervisor reports.
Okay. Yeah, are there any supervisor reports? Supervisor Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been several months of meetings you've had for the Public Works Department, and I have volumes of material here that I could go over, and I could give you every excruciating detail that you would care to entertain. But this being a time of maybe brevity being a asset, we'll just stick to the basics. But Mr. Arbit is here in the room. If you'd like to elaborate or carry on to any great extent, you certainly can. Question was brought up previously about this very building, the window replacement, how that was going to be affected. There's been some evaluation back and forth on the Beth methodology, and the idea of using reinforced bulletproof glass is just not a good idea in the sense that the weight, the size, the dimension, its availability is not a doable proposition. But what did come forward was to be able to use glass similar to what we have, but to use a reinforcing membrane over it. And it had been done actually in another building in this downtown campus. And during the disturbance, they were not able to penetrate the building due to the extreme resistance of this glass to bend somewhat, but it won't break. It won't allow people to come into the building. So that's going to be happening here throughout the fall season. In terms of what's actually been done, the courthouse actually does have the windows and doors complete, and there will be the membrane that will be applied to that. Contractor has been selected for this very building here and the public PSC building. Berglund was awarded that contract, and then they will have the reinforcing membrane on there. So look for that to be completed sometime later this fall. Going on to other divisions, we're talking about golf very briefly. Doing quite well there. Brightondale was listed as 4th best in the state for public golf, and we have 28,000 database members that get sent the golfing information and replays and so forth. So it's becoming a bit more of a, shall we say, sophisticated revenue repeat business type operation. In this building here, we're looking at phase 3 of the heat pump replacement. Will be done this month. And the other 2 items, Kenosha County Detention Center, have projects that will finish up this month. That's exterior sealants, piping, and some coupling work that's done there. A few more things to go over in the downtown campus. We're doing increased security in some of the public access areas. Can report more on that later. Parks, doing pretty well there. We've got a lot of activities. We've got a whole list of them that are going to be carried on this summer. Later on in the meeting, you'll see a resolution to approve a plat, we're moving on to highways now, for the intersection of County A and County Y, which is County A and 22nd Avenue. That'll be a roundabout under construction, probably next construction season, but this evening we approved the plat for that. I'm sure there's more I could go into, but that's my report for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Rose, did you have your light on?
Chairman, I would like to bring to your attention and to the attention of members of the County Board our rules of procedure, in particular committee assignments. Chair, I assume that you would know this as chairman and longstanding member of this board. When we adopted this provision under the section called committee assignments, you can find that at 3H, and it says, and I'll read, no supervisor shall simultaneously serve as chair of a standing committee and as the chair of a county affiliated board or commission. This applies to the chairman of the Finance Committee as well as the chair of the Joint Services Board. You cannot serve both of those committees. The old rule used to be quite different. The old rule allowed members of the Finance Committee to include chairs of various committees and boards. And that was removed, and this new section was incorporated into the new thinking. It was done for a good reason, so that you as chairman of, let's say, Joint Services or as chairman of Human Services would not advocate strongly for your position in front of the Finance Committee, which you may chair. So, Mr. Chairman, I would say to you that your appointment of Mr. Gantz here as chair of the Finance Committee is contrary to our rules and has jeopardized our position with the city. At the very last meeting, Mr. Morrissey, the city administrator, came into the meeting and left the meeting when he saw that Mr. Gantz was chairing that committee, recognizing that the appointment was, as chair of finance, was putting him into a conflict position. We owe it to our constituents to make sure that our relationships with the city are good and that there be no question when we go to sell the bonds which are in front of us here tonight, that all of our T's are crossed and I's are dotted. I bring this to your attention, Mr. Chairman, because it is your appointment is in clear violation of the rules. I ask that you enforce it and change committee chairs of the finance.
Thank you. Joe, you care to comment on that?
Supervisor Rose, the question is being reviewed, but I will tell you that it is my opinion that Joint Services would not be considered to be a county-affiliated board or commission as contemplated by the rule. I believe that that would contemplate those bodies that are populated either entirely or primarily by the county. Joint Services is an independent legal entity with both the city and the county contributing individuals to that board, and I don't see where this is a violation of the rules.
Terry, you had your chance. You talked, Terry, so we're done. Any other supervisor reports? Supervisor Beth.
I would like to have your permission to report on Country Thunder. Several of the supervisors did attend, Supervisor Gashke and his wife, Youth and Governance, Brooke Smith, Supervisor Boyd Frederick, Supervisor Zach Rodriguez, Supervisor Sharon Palmaville, and myself. We had a lovely tour. The Country Thunder went very well this year. There were only, I believe, 7 arrests. There were many violations, but none as serious in the previous. We had a tour of the medical area, the fire department area. We went backstage where the entertainers were. We were given whole weekend passes to everything on the grounds free of charge, including our food and liquid. And we went to the camping areas. We went to the rental tent areas. And we got to meet the owners of Country Thunder, and everyone was extremely gracious to us. We went to the Sheriff's Command Center, and they explained how 911 worked and all the officers. And then we got to see the heavy steel fencing that protected the different areas of Country Thunder, and we're told that this is the fencing that was used in downtown Kenosha during the riots. And so it was very educational and very beneficial to us.
Thank you. Any other supervisor reports? Supervisor Gashke, is your line now?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one brief update. I'll be introducing several resolutions and ordinances later tonight. But one thing that won't be coming before the board that came through our Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee is in regards to the Kirkman Trust property, in regards to Glenbaki Concrete. And just wanted the board to be aware that our committee did approve allowing a contractor business in the B5 wholesale trade. All of the trucks and so forth will be stored inside of buildings. It won't change the look of the property in any way. But again, I'm just bringing that up before the board tonight as a whole because there are no resolutions or ordinances connected with that. Just wanted you to be aware of that portion of the business of our committee. Secondly, I do want to echo Supervisor Beth and just thank the Sheriff's Department for the job that they did at Country Thunder and for the opportunity to see behind the scenes all the hard work that goes in to make that a safe and enjoyable festival. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Decker?
Thank you. I have a question through the chair. I guess if I can ask it, I'm not sure. Just to clarify, supervisors were given passes, tickets to the Country Thunder? I would like Corporation Counsel to look into that to see if it's a violation of our ethics ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Supervisor Noodles, your line?
Yeah.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to, for a point of clarification, through Corporation Counsel, he said that joint services is not a committee or subcommittee of the county board. Could you tell me what constitutes part of a committee or subcommittee of the county board and why joint service is not?
An appropriate place to be discussing this.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure that this is it's appropriate. It's not really a matter that's on the agenda. As I said, I'm working on a memo on this issue, but it's my belief that the rule is designed to encompass those bodies that are wholly or primarily constituted by the county. So we would be talking about the Veterans Affairs Commission, the Aging and Disability Commission, the Human Services Board, potentially bodies such as that. This is a separate legal entity that has been formed by the city and the county together. They both contribute to the board. I don't think it is affiliated with the county in the way that some of our other bodies are.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else. Hmm? Yeah. Ready? There you go.
County Executive Appointments, 23, Robert Mary to serve on the Kenosha County Land Information Council.
Refer to Planning, Development, and Education Extension Committee, please.
New Business Ordinance, 1 reading. Ordinance 3 from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, an ordinance regarding DeBell Dairy LLC owner Jasper Durig, agent, requesting a rezoning from A1 Agricultural Preservation District, C2 Upland Resource Conservancy District, and C1 Lowland Resource Conservancy District to A1 Agricultural Preservation District, A2 General Agricultural District, C2 Upland Resource Conservancy District, and C1 Lowland Resource Conservancy District in the town of Brighton. From Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, Geschke, I, Mauer, I, Nudo, I, Rodriguez, I, Beth, I.
Supervisor Gaske. Motion by Supervisor Gaske, second by Supervisor Mauer. Supervisor Gaske, on the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Ordinance 3 would allow a rezoning for DeBell Dairy. Long story short, basically this is squaring off the adjoining parcel to enable an adjustment to the lot line, just to kind of clean things up a little bit and make the land and the lot line more usable. The town of Brighton did recommend this, as well as our committee unanimously, and we'd ask for your support tonight. Thank you.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any nays? Motion carried. Thank you.
Ordinance 4 from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, an ordinance regarding Jerome N. Fleece, owner, requesting an amendment to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County 2035, map 65 of the comprehensive plan, from farmland protection to farmland protection and suburban density residential town of Paris. From Planning, Development, Extension Education Committee, Gaske, I, Mauer, I, Nudo, I, Rodriguez, I, Beth, I.
Supervisor Gaske.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Ordinance 4.
Motion by Supervisor Gaske and seconded by Supervisor Beth. Supervisor Gaske.
Thank you, Mr.
On the ordinance.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we actually have 3 items before us tonight as a board related to the same property. Ordinance 4, Ordinance 5, and later in the meeting, Resolution 32. All 3 of those are related to the same property. That being said, Ordinance 4, which is before us right now, again, this would be a comprehensive plan amendment change to allow suburban density residential in order to allow residential development there. The town of Paris recommends, as well as our committee, and we ask for your approval.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carried. Thank you.
Ordinance 5 from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, an ordinance regarding Jerome N. Fleece requests a rezoning from A1 Agricultural Preservation District to A1 Agricultural Preservation District, R2 Suburban Single Family Residential District, and PUD Planned Unit Development Overlay District, Town of Paris. From Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, Geschke, aye. Mauer, aye. Nudo, aye. Rodriguez, aye. Beth, aye.
Supervisor Gasky?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move ordinance 5.
Motion by Supervisor Gasky, second by Supervisor Nudo. Supervisor Gasky on the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is the same Fleiss property we just discussed. Based upon the action that we just took as a board, now this ordinance 5 before us would allow us to rezone, to subdivide the property to create more buildable lots. Town of Paris recommends, our committee approved, and we ask for your support tonight.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carried. Thank you.
Ordinance 6 from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, an ordinance regarding John P. Lorigan Trust, owner, John P. Lorigan, agent, requests a rezoning from A1 Agricultural Preservation District, R2 Suburban Single Family Residential District, C1 Lowland Resource Conservancy District, and PUD Planned Unit Development Overlay District to A1 Agricultural Preservation District, R2 Suburban Single Family Residential District, C1 Lowland Resource Conservancy District, and PUD Planned Unit Development Overlay District, Town of Paris. From Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, Geschke, aye. Mauer, aye. Nudo, aye. Rodriguez, aye. Beth, aye.
Supervisor Gasky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move ordinance 6.
Motion by Supervisor Gasky, second by Supervisor Mauer. Supervisor Gasky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This Lorigan property, ordinance 6, basically, we're just asking for a rezoning. This would allow subdividing the property into additional, more buildable lots. And this is being done through the platting process. The Town of Paris recommends, our committee also does, and we ask for your support and approval.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried. Thank you.
Ordinance 7 from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, an ordinance regarding Robert and Kay Drizzle, revocable trust owner, Diane and John Myers, agent, requesting a rezoning from A1 Agricultural Preservation District to A1 Agricultural Preservation District and R1 Rural Residential District, Town of Brighton. From Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, Geschke, aye. Mauer, aye. Nudo, aye. Rodriguez, aye. Beth, aye.
Supervisor Gasky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move ordinance 7.
The motion by Supervisor Gasky, a second by Supervisor Mauer. Supervisor Gasky on the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As with the Fleiss property earlier, there are 3 ordinances and resolutions before us tonight, ordinances 7 and 8, and then later on, Resolution 33, all related to the same property. That being said, Ordinance 7 is before us right now, and this would simply allow a rezoning to subdivide the property, again, to make more usable, more buildable lots. The Town of Brighton does recommend approval, as well as our committee, and we ask for your support.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any nays? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Ordinance 8 from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, an ordinance regarding Robert and Kay Drizzle, revocable trust owner, Diane and John Myers, agent, requesting an amendment to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County 2035, map 65 of the comprehensive plan, from farmland protection to farmland protection and rural density residential, Town of Brighton. From Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, Geschke, aye. Mauer, aye. Nudo, aye. Rodriguez, aye. Beth, aye.
Supervisor Gasky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move ordinance 8.
Motion by Supervisor Gasky, second by Supervisor Beth. Supervisor Gasky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is the same Drizzle property we just discussed, but ordinance 8 is in regards to a comprehensive plan amendment, and this would add farmland protection. It would add rural density residential to the existing farmland protection. Our committee asks for your support. The Town of Brighton approves, and our committee also approved. Thank you.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Any nays? Motion carried, thank you.
Resolution, one reading, Resolution 28 from the Finance and Administration Committee, a resolution advisory levy. From Finance and Administration Committee, Gents, aye. Ron Frederick, aye. Celebrate, aye. Kubicki, aye. Wamble, aye. Uhas, aye. Franco, aye.
Supervisor Gens. A motion by Supervisor Gens, second by Supervisor Ron Frederick. Supervisor Gens, on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is something done every year for our county board. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay. This is something done every year per our county board rules. It is advisory. Since I've been on the board, we've never raised the levy 3% or more. At the committee, we discussed a number of upcoming challenges with the sheriff's department and the loss of detainees and salaries, et cetera. So a lot of things were brought up and consideration put into this. So we did, as a committee, settle on the 2.99 that was recommended. When you add in the CPI inflation adjustment and new construction, the cost for a $100,000 home and in our taxes will actually go down $21.57. So I think we need to be a little flexible this year. We'll see if there's anything we need to cut when budget time comes, but that's what the committee passed, and I would ask for your endorsement of that. Thank you.
Supervisor Rose, do you have your light on?
I do. I have always supported the concept of a advisory levy objective, but I don't support the 2.99% in this resolution. I think this is the time that we ought to go back to the 0 point, and we've had 0 in the past. I say that because we are going to receive approximately $33 million from the federal government. Now, what was the purpose of that American Recovery Act money? It was to assist communities, individuals who were homesick, who were unemployed, whose businesses had terminated, all because of the pandemic. This was substitute money that the Congress appropriated and the President signed for the very purposes of this levy objective. It was to supplement the expenses that a county or city would incur with this federal money. This levy objective completely ignores that and should not. I think the Congress and the President made a bargain here with the American people, and that social contract was simply that the money that the Congress appropriated was to be used to reduce property taxes because of the unemployment, because of the termination of businesses, the bankruptcies of businesses, and the illness of our people. So therefore, Mr. Chairman, I would move to substitute 2.99% with 0.
Moved and seconded by Aaron Decker. Mr. Noodle, you had your light on?
Yeah, are
Was it
we
about-
talking about,
Was it about this,
about the amendment or the
about the
previous
amendment
motion?
now, or about,
No, I wanted to talk on the previous, on the regular motion, so I'll wait for that.
you hold off on that? All right. On the amendment then. Wait, just a second. Supervisor Berg, you had your light on?
Correct. Yeah, I'm not going to be supporting the 0% for a couple reasons. A, we already know that the market has inflated prices right now on building materials. Once we have to start going up, going down. It's going down, but it's going minutely down. Second, We have over 200 employees that have not had raises in over 3 years. We have a county to our north that's about to increase their corrections by $15,000 per individual. We're going to have to continue recruiting, or we're going to have to continue increasing prices or, salaries. So I'm not going to be supporting this.
Supervisor against?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to correct something that Supervisor Rose said. We didn't enter an agreement with any president to give us $33 million to reduce our levy, just so everybody knows. We got money for that to use for COVID relief and COVID-related things. So we're still in the process of putting together a plan of what we can use that for, but certainly not to reduce the levy. So we are going to be faced with budgetary challenges coming up this year, be it we lost millions of dollars of revenue in detainees in the Sheriff's Department, which we were able to subsidize a little bit with some of the money we've already got, but I don't know if we can use that moving forward out of this money. I'm pretty sure that we can't. So to just say, oh, let's do zero and take our levy stuff out of the 32 million, which we haven't even received yet. We've received 16 of it. So that's really not viable. We are going to be faced with some challenges coming up this year with salaries, with, as Supervisor Berg said, challenges of competition in the area. Racine with dispatchers and corrections and other employees, losing them to Uline and Amazon and other things. And it's very important that we stay competitive there. So I think 2.99 is a fair starting point. Just to give you a little idea, even if it went from 2.9 to 2%, if you wanted to think about doing that as a compromise, it would only be 4.38 per year. So 36 cents a month would be saved in that. So, you know, we need to have some flexibility in this, and I've always been one to look at 1.99, 2.4, that type of thing. But really coming off of COVID and the challenges we're going to have this year, I think we can at least take a look at the 2.9 and see what budget comes before us, and then we're all able to do with it what we will. But I think limiting us right off the bat for that is not the right move. And we also can't use that money just to plug in the levy, just to make you aware of that. Thank you.
Supervisor Rose?
Yes, I think this money is from the federal government is exactly aimed at what Mr. Gintz disputes here, and that is to defer our costs. Also, if you look at the sentence following it, the levy objective shall apply to the operating and debt levy in accord with the financial policy management statement as approved by the board. And if you take a look at what it says at fiscal note, it says that these factors include but not limited to state budget changes, higher human services costs, the lingering effects of COVID-19 pandemic. They're already warning you here that it may not be 2.9%, but it could be substantially higher. So be careful with the language here that you pass, because the 2.9% might be considerably higher when that statement that I read to you is impacted here. I'm very disappointed that the committee has not taken into account this $33 million that we are to receive, and we've received over $15 million to date. What we're telling the general public, and I think rather unfairly, is we'll do the 2.99%, but we've got all of this extra money coming in, and don't forget we're going to be receiving, as was reported in the paper, increased sales tax money, so that we're going to be awash with the money from the federal government and the state government, and we'll be patting ourselves on the back for the surpluses and overtaxing the general public. If you don't agree with 0%, then come up with something substantially less than 2.9. Thank you.
Supervisor Noodle?
Thank you. Well, I guess I changed my mind. I'm going to talk on the amendment. 0%, as far as I'm concerned, it's a lot better than 2.9%. However, I'm still going to vote against the amendment, as I will for any resolution that comes before us, for any suggestion or whatever you want to call it, on how much we can increase our levy. I think that's the administration job to present with the best budget that they can, and at that point, we analyze the budget and we decide whether we should go 1%, 0%, 10%, or whatever it is. But this one, just like I voted every year against it, it's just a make me feel good resolution that we sent to administration and pretty much telling them, hey, if you come in at 3%, pretty much we're going to okay it. But still, you can come up more or whatever. So let them come with the best budget that they can, and then we'll decide on what to do. So I'm going to vote for this resolution regardless on what the percentage it's going to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Rose, you finished? Okay. No other lights are on? Roll call requested. This is on the amendment. Zero. Okay. I can't read that from here. Motion failed. So we're back to the original. Want to clear the board? Is there any more discussion on the original motion? You want a roll call vote on the original motion then? You want to hear the original motion again? What do we do? No, it's not. Is it in register or what? Oh, okay. This is still the original amendment? Amendment? This is the original?
The amendment's done.
Okay.
This is the original.
Who's missing?
Supervisor Gantz, can you push your button again?
What?
Push your button to confirm, please. Thank you. Motion passes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
13 to 7.
What's the vote?
13 to 7.
13-7 passes.
Resolution 29. Resolution 29 from the Finance and Administration Committee, a resolution authorizing and providing for the issuance of not to exceed $12,055,000 general obligation highway improvement bonds, providing for the notification and sale of said bonds and other related details. From Finance Administration Committee, Gentz, aye. Ron Frederick, aye. Celebrate, aye. Kubicki, aye. Wamble, aye. Uhas, aye. Franco, aye.
Supervisor Gens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Resolution 29.
Moved by Supervisor Gens, second by Supervisor Celebrity. Supervisor Gens on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is actually just allowing us to go out for bid on the bonds and notes to pay for our capital expenditures that we voted for in the budget last November. Please pay attention to, in your material handed out, the schedule on page 5. It'll go out to bid the 17th of August and then be brought to us that evening with the low bidders. So with that, the Finance Committee supported this, and I would ask for your approval.
Any discussion? Supervisor Nudo.
Yeah, through the chair, I have a question for Corporation Counsel. What happens if we go out and we sell the bonds and it's discovered that the resolution passed last November was done illegally? What happens to that?
Supervisor Nudo, that's a hypothetical question that's inaccurate. There was nothing wrong with the vote in November. There's no reason why we cannot go to market on these bonds.
Okay, I raised a question back in November. I have reason to believe that the vote that was taken, the second vote that was taken, was done illegally, as far as my understanding is, which I might be wrong. So my question is, what happens if that is the case? Yes, it's an hypothetical question, but what happens if it is?
I'm not going to answer the hypothetical, Supervisor. It wasn't illegal. I, anticipating this possibility, reached out to both our bond counsel and the general counsel for the WCA. They are in agreement with me that there was nothing wrong with the procedure followed in November in passing. First of all, it's actually the second resolution, not this one, but there's nothing wrong with the procedure that was gone through to approve the resolution.
I questioned that. I asked a question from you at that time, which I got the. I had my attorney write you a letter, and was my understanding that the winning side was supposed to have to be put on the agenda, which it was not. And again, that's just what my understanding is. Automatically, that was put on the agenda, which it should not have been, because nobody from the winning side requested that, so another vote was taken. For that reason, I don't feel comfortable with it, and I'm going to vote against it.
So for the edification of the body, first of all, this is not a legal question. It was a question regarding procedure. Second of all, our rules clearly state a supervisor who intends to make a motion to reconsider must advise the clerk of that in advance. That is to comply with open meetings requirements, is to ensure that there is notice to the public that the motion may come up. That is different than who makes the motion, and the individual who made the motion clearly had voted with the prevailing side by having voted against the bonding when the promissory notes when the question came up. There was nothing wrong with the procedure, either in placing it on the agenda, bringing it before the body, having the reconsideration motion brought up, or voting on it after the reconsideration motion was passed. Again, it is my firm conviction, with the concurrence of both the WCA General Counsel and our bond counsel, that there is no reason for us not to proceed with approving the sale.
Thank you, Supervisor Nudo. Any other discussion? Seeing none, this requires a roll call vote.
Passes 17-3.
Thank you.
Resolution 30, from the Finance and Administration Committee, a resolution authorizing and providing for the issuance of not to exceed $15,610,000 general obligation promissory notes, providing for the notification and sale of said notes and other related details. From Finance and Administration Committee, Gentz, I. Ron Frederick, I. Celebrity, I. Kubicki, I. Wamble, I. Uhas, I. Franco, I.
Supervisor Gantz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve Resolution 30.
Motion by Supervisor Gantz, second by Supervisor Ron Frederick. Supervisor Gantz on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is pertaining to the notes, similar to what I had said about the bonds. This is just allowing us to go out to bid to get the revenue to pay for what we have budgeted for this year and actually started spending money on. So the committee approved it unanimously, and I would ask for your support this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Did you lay down Supervisor Nudo?
Yeah, just for the same reason I stated before, I'm going to vote no against this resolution.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, let's take a roll call vote on this too.
Passes 17-3.
Thank you.
Resolution 31 from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, a resolution adopting the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, CEDS, for southeastern Wisconsin 2021 to 2025. From Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, Gashke, I. Mauer, I. Nudo, I. Rodriguez, I. Beth, I.
Supervisor Gashke. Oh, hold on. Go ahead.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Resolution 31.
Moved by Supervisor Gashke, second by Supervisor Mauer. Supervisor Gashke on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution 31 is an opportunity for us as a board to adopt Sewer PAC, the Southeastern Planning Commission's comprehensive economic development strategy plan for our region, for southeastern Wisconsin. This is something that's done about every 5 years or so. It's a long-term plan with neighboring communities in order to better access federal funds, in order to better coordinate planning, so on and so forth with neighboring communities. Again, this is fairly standard, but there is a lot of information in here. If you haven't had the chance to do so, I would urge you to look closely at our agenda, and you can click on the second link. It's the CEDS presentation, and there's about a 20 slide presentation that kind of helps give an overview of this. And then the very last slide of the presentation includes links to Sewer PAC's website and the several hundred-page document that we're voting on tonight. So if you haven't taken the time to do that, I would encourage you to do that at some other point. That being said, this did pass our committee, and we're asking for your support tonight. Finally, if you do have any specific questions, if there is anything in particular that you're wondering about before voting on this tonight, Mr. Ben McKay, a representative from Sewer PAC, is here with us tonight, and he would be able to answer any specific questions that you have. Thank you.
Supervisor Rose.
Mr. Chairman, this is a very important document. I doubt if any of us, perhaps with the exception of Mr. Gashke and a few others, know much about it. I think this is the kind of thing that we ought to spend a little time, perhaps at the next meeting, invite the representative from Sewer PAC here to give us a more comprehensive viewpoint of what this is all about. I hate to pass something without knowing much about it, and that's the way I feel about this report at this time. It's not something you can present in 5 or 10 minutes or respond to in a question or two. We're voting on a lot of points here which we don't know whether they're good or they're not, or whether we should be know more about it or not, but I don't want to be embarrassed in the future. And when somebody says, did you know that you passed back in 2021 in the summer, such and such a proposal, and now it's 2024. I think it would be to very much our benefit if we might have invited the representative back here for our next meeting. Perhaps you could schedule it at 7 o'clock, and we could listen to a 45-minute presentation so we're more educated and able to talk about this thing rather than what is presented, which might be very good, but there's a lot of generalities in here that I think we should be given more information about.
Thank you. Supervisor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did read through the full document that was under 200 pages, I believe. And actually, I looked through the one from 5 years ago, which was more than this year's. I do have a question regarding the second, therefore be it resolved. It says that the Kenosha County Board of Supervisors supports the formation of an economic development district for the southeastern Wisconsin region, which would align local, county, and regional economic development efforts to carry out the recommendation of the SEEDS. Question to the chair of the committee. Is this economic development district, could that possibly have taxing authority?
Supervisor Gaske, can you answer that?
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor Decker. It's my understanding that that would be no, that they would not have that opportunity. I would defer to Mr. McKay if I'm incorrect in that.
You are correct. The designation of an economic development district is one that would be made by the U.S. Economic Development Administration. That particular designation does have several benefits. One of the main benefits is essentially allowing more areas of the county and the region to be eligible to apply for U.S. EDA grants. Currently, as it stands in 2015, when the county and the other 6 counties in the region, as well as the Regional Planning Commission, adopted that 2015 SEDS, it allowed areas in the region that have census tracts that are deemed economically in economic distress by the EDA to be eligible to apply for EDA grants. With district designation, that geographic area in a region would increase. An individual project could be reviewed and potentially approved by the EDA for project grant funding. If it lies outside of one of those census tracts, however, it could be demonstrated that it would benefit residents living within one of those census tracts. Right now, there are about 221 census tracts in the entire 7-county region that are considered economically in economic distress by the EDA, and I believe there are 17 to 20 of those census tracts located within Kenosha County.
Thank you. As long as you're at the mic, I have another question. With the census tracts, because those were in the report, are those updated from this last census, or are they still from the previous census, or are they updated not just every 10 years?
Yeah, so they're updated more frequently than every 10 years. I believe they're updated on an annual basis using American Community Survey that's a U.S. Census Bureau product. The criteria that's used by the EDA to identify an economically distressed census tract would be either a relatively high unemployment rate, which would be 1% or greater than the U.S. average, or relatively low per capita income, which would be 80% or below of the U.S. average. So that information comes out about once a year from the American Community Survey. It is mapped by the EDA, and we do actually share that map on the Sewer PAC website. So counties and local governments that may wish to apply for a grant would know if their project is located in an eligible portion of their county or local government.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any nays? Motion carried. Thank you.
Resolution 32 from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, a resolution regarding Jerome N. Fleece, owner, requesting amendment to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County 2035, map 65 of the comprehensive plan, from farmland protection to farmland protection and suburban density residential, Town of Paris. From Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, Gashke, I. Mauer, I. Nudo, I. Rodriguez, I. Beth, I.
Supervisor Gashke. Oh, wait a second, let me get you on there. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Resolution 32.
Moved by Supervisor Gashke, second by Supervisor Beth. Supervisor Gashke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to pause for a moment and thank Mr. McKay for being here tonight and helping answer questions on our past Resolution 31. Thank you. As far as Resolution 32 goes, this is the same property that we were considering with ordinances 4 and 5, the Fleiss property. And basically the reason this resolution is before us now is a state requirement. The state does require an ordinance from the full county board as well as approval from our committee. And so our committee did approve this. This would simply allow adding suburban density residential to the existing farmland protection. The Town of Paris approves and recommends. Our committee does as well, and we ask for your support tonight.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried, thank you.
Resolution 33 from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, a resolution regarding Robert and Kay Drizzle, revocable trust owner, Diane and John Myers, agent, requesting an amendment to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County 2035, map 65 of the comprehensive plan, from farmland protection to farmland protection and rural density residential, Town of Brighton. From Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, Gashke, I. Mauer, I. Nudo, I. Rodriguez, I. Beth, I.
Supervisor Gashke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Resolution 33.
Motion by Supervisor Gashke, second by Supervisor Nudo. Supervisor Gashke on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution 33 is in regards to the same property that we discussed earlier, the Drissel property, with ordinances 7 and 8. Just like the ordinance 32 that we just discussed, this is a state requirement for both a resolution and an ordinance in order to move forward with this. Resolution 33 is simply adding rural density residential to the existing farmland protection, and the Town of Brighton recommends this as well as our committee, and we ask for your support.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried, thank you.
Resolution 34 from Public Works and Finance Administration Committee, a resolution approving a plan for the construction of a roundabout at the intersection of County Trunk Highways A and Y. From Public Works and Facilities Committee, Grady, I. Franco, I. Belsky, I. Berg, I. Rodriguez, I. Palmaville, I. Nudo, I. From Finance and Administration Committee, Gentz, I. Celebrity, I. Ron Frederick, I. Kubicki, I. Franco, I. Uhas, I. Wamble, I.
Supervisor Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move resolution number 34.
It's been moved by Supervisor Grady and second by Supervisor Gens. Supervisor Grady on the resolution.
Yes, this is the item we talked about earlier in the meeting. It is simply the plat for that intersection of County Y and County A that outlines the geographic limits of the project and its scope. It passed our committee. We ask your approval this evening.
Supervisor Mauer, have a question?
Just discussion. Just discussion. So this is in my district. I'm looking for everybody's support tonight on this. I know a lot of people are not for roundabouts, but this is a very dangerous intersection. There's a lot of deaths that occur here, and a stop sign. There's a four-way stop right there right now, and it's really not even doing that good of a job. So a roundabout would be a good solution, so I'm asking for everybody's support.
Thank you. Supervisor Rose, you have your light on?
No.
Okay. Supervisor Decker? No?
No, that's old.
Okay.
Sorry.
Nordigan?
I had a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess the question I have is, was this in the 2021 budget already? Because you're just talking about doing the plat right now. You're not talking about doing anything else in 2021?
Correct. It's just in the planning stages at this point.
Okay, but it is in the budget?
Yes.
Okay. It didn't just get put in, it was planned?
No, it's been the
Okay.
better part of almost 3 years that this has
Okay.
gone through the process.
So when do we think the work will be done in 2022? Will be in the 2022
Well, it'll have to
budget?
be approved the plat, then it'll have to go through some
Wire.
approval process. It'll have to go out for bid, and we're anticipating at this point, probably next year, maybe towards the latter half of the year, it'll get completed.
Do we have the funds to acquire the property that we need to acquire?
I believe that's been taken care of.
That has been taken care of?
I
Okay.
believe it has.
Okay,
I
yeah,
can-
yeah, no, I think road safety is number one. If we aren't here to keep people safe, then we're not doing our job, so I'll be approving this too, thanks.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any nays? Motion carried. Thank you.
Resolution 35 from Public Works Facilities Committee, a resolution to reappoint Monica Uhas to the Pringle Nature Center Board. From Public Works and Facilities Committee, Grady, I. Franco, I. Belsky, I. Berg, I. Rodriguez, I. Palmaville, I. Nudo, nay.
Supervisor Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move resolution number 35.
Motion made by Supervisor Grady, second by Supervisor Franco. Supervisor Grady.
Yes, this came before our committee at a recent meeting. It is a reappoint. We just encourage your approval this evening.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Roll call?
Who's missing? We're just waiting for Supervisor Gashke's confirm. Thank you. Motion passes 19 to 1, or 19 yea,
Thank you.
1 nay. Communications, 4, communications from Andy M. Bueller regarding future items scheduled before the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee.
Receive and file.
Claims 7, Daniel C. Skorupka, vehicle damage.
Refer to Corporation Council.
8, Joseph G. Urbanik, vehicle damage.
Refer to Corporation Council.
9, Zachary Polera, violation of rights and personal injury.
Refer to Corporation Council.
Approval of the June 15th, 2021 minutes by Supervisor Decker.
Supervisor Decker.
Motion to approve the June 15th, 2021 minutes.
Second by? Who is it? Jeff Gens, okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Carried, thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Carried, thank you.
We got it. Could be